cover what the IRS website says about injured spouse relief. So in this video, we'll cover exactly what injured spouse relief is, or the injured spouse allocation that you can file for, how you might qualify, what you do if you receive a notice from the IRS, and then finally some things that sound like they might be injured spouse relief but actually fall under a different category. So as usual, we'll put links in the show notes to videos and articles that we've created that might be additional resources on this. So the best way to describe injured spouse would be if you're married filing a joint tax return, you're expecting a refund, then part of your tax refund is used to pay down back debt that your spouse has. So as background, the federal government has a program known as the Treasury Offset Program, which means that there are certain debts that are enforceable at the federal level. So this could be child support that's enforced by a state or local agency and reported to the Treasury Department. It could be debts to federal agencies. This could be overpayments of Social Security. It could be things like student loan debt that's federally secured, usually by the Department of Education. So if you fall behind on your student loan debt, you can fall into this category. Other state obligations such as income tax, overpayments of unemployment compensation. So basically, if you're a taxpayer who is behind on any of those debts, then your tax refunds, as well as other government payments, can be garnished to pay down those debts. However, if you're married to someone that's not involved in any of these debts, then the IRS can only offset your portion of the tax refund, not necessarily your spouse's. So the injured spouse would be the spouse whose tax return has been offset and garnished because of no fault of their own. So you could be eligible for injured spouse relief if you filed a joint tax return with your spouse. Your tax refund was applied to your spouse's overdue debts, and you were not responsible for the debt at all. So there are links here. These are jump links to other pages on this page. If you're a community property state resident, there are specific laws that can apply to your situation. You can go through this checklist. Basically, it's kind of a walkthrough program under the Interactive Tax Assistant that allows you to determine for yourself whether or not you or your spouse can claim part of a refund that's being applied towards that debt. So basically, this is a walkthrough to see if you would be eligible for injured spouse relief. So you can click that link and go through that yourself. So before your tax payments or your tax refunds get reduced, you'll normally get a notice from the IRS or the Treasury Department. It's called a notice of offset, and it'll usually have the original refund amount, the amount that was applied to your spouse's debt, the agency that receives the payment, and then the phone number and address of the agency. So you can follow the instructions on your notice if you don't believe that you owe the debt at all. Or if you disagree with that, you can follow the instructions on your notice. You can also contact the Treasury Department. So you have to request relief within 3 years of the time that the tax return was filed, or 2 years from the date that the tax was paid, whichever one was later. So if you've never filed a tax return, then you have to file within 2 years of the date that the tax was paid. And you request relief by filing IRS Form 8379. That's the injured spouse allocation. So you can apply it, you can file it with your tax return, or you can file it separately from your tax return. And according to the IRS, it normally takes about 8 weeks to process this form. It could be longer if you file it with your tax return because the IRS needs to calculate the amount of the refund, and then they need to make a determination on how much of that refund can be claimed back on your spouse's debt, and then how much is allocated to the injured spouse. So there are a couple of other related links. Probably the most common thing is what's known as innocent spouse relief, which sounds familiar. It sounds similar to the injured spouse allocation, but really is a completely different concept. So an innocent spouse is one where there's a joint tax return that was filed. One spouse either committed mistakes, either through omission, or maybe they coerced their spouse into doing something. But one spouse was filing part of a joint tax return, but the taxes were understated, and they did not know that the errors were there because of the mistake of the other spouse. So whether they knew about it or whether they were coerced into going along with the tax return, that's a completely different category from the injured spouse allocation. So innocent spouse relief is also requested on a completely different tax form. We'll put a link in the show notes to that tax form as well, in case you had questions about whether or not, which situation applies to you. So that's kind of a brief primer on the injured spouse relief. Again, if you have a tax refund that's garnished and applied towards your spouse's back debt, tax debt, or state or local enforceable debt that's reported to the Treasury Department, you can claw back your portion of that tax refund that the IRS will allocate to you. So as I mentioned, we'll put links in the show notes to additional resources that we've created, as well as a link to this page so that you can access it for yourself. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see in an upcoming video, please hit us up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.